Welcome back to my channel, Melanated Gods of Earth. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host MODISE The High King, and if you're new to my channel and you enjoy the vibe, make sure you hit the subscribe, let the algorithm know what's up, the thumbs up, let other like-minded souls know that we're out here with the share, and I'll appreciate you. Royal family, let's get into today's video. We have been discussing the machinations of the French, because never mind the French per se, but the neo-colonial powers in general. None more representative than the French powers and their refusal to leave the motherland as they have been instructed and demanded for by the everyday peoples. And of course, it's not like they don't know what they're doing, right? There's a couple of clips I came across yesterday and I would like to share some of them today. Scary video reveals French warships docking at the West African coast. Number 1. Number 2, shocking video of a French warship spotted in the coast of... Yeah, that's just more of the same, I think. And of course, primarily French parliament under fire after Niger expels its ambassador because they refuse to accept reality. But let's cover in some of the clips, get some general context as to what it is that we're about to discuss. Starting with the one that I saw yesterday.
Following a challenging struggle with Niger's military
Hold up. Yeah.
junta. Following a challenging struggle with Niger's military junta, France decided to withdraw its troops from Niger last month. Nonetheless, a troubling video has surfaced showing a French warship discreetly docking in Ivory Coast. The video was filmed at a port in Ivory Coast and documents the arrival of a French warship at the Abidjan port, as recorded by a transporter from Burkina Faso. In the video, the transporter can be heard stating that the French warship had arrived the night before. What's more, he noticed another French warship already moored to the right at the port. Despite the increasing prevalence of anti-French sentiments across Africa, particularly in former French colonies, certain African nations still maintain close diplomatic ties with France. It's worth highlighting that France operates a military base in Abidjan, Ivory Coast's capital, where around 1,000 troops are stationed. The emergence of this video raises concerns due to France's publicized threats of military intervention against the leadership in Niger.
Listen to that little tidbit carefully, royal family. The people on the ground have been saying the French get lost, and the French have been refusing. Now, while that is happening, other countries are watching. From Germany to Britain to the United States, or the Dutch United States, everybody's watching to see how these events unfold.
The newly established transitional government in Niger issued a press release on September 9, 2023, in which they accused France of preparing for an attack on Niger, allegedly with the complicity of two West African nations, Benin and Ivory Coast, both of which allowed French warships access to their territorial waters. Perceiving it as an act of disloyalty, Niger took the step of suspending its military collaboration with Benin and deploying additional troops to reinforce its southern border with Benin. France, however, has strongly refuted these allegations, adamantly asserting their complete falseness. Nevertheless, the lingering question remains whether these warships have any connection to challenging Niger's military junta. Meanwhile, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have entered into a mutual defense agreement as the three Sahel countries unite to provide mutual support against potential threats, such as armed uprisings or external aggressions. This pact, known as the Alliance of Sahel States, commits the signatory nations to come to each other's aid, including militarily, in the event of an attack on any one of them. The purpose behind the presence of warships in Ivory Coast remains shrouded in mystery. However, what is undeniable is that Niger's military junta remains vigilant and prepared to confront any potential foreign aggression.
That's right.
Do you think France has plans to attack Niger? Let us know in the comments.
I do. I think they are too desperate and too addicted to their colonial lifestyle for anything less. And royal family, if they want war, if it's war what they want, I don't even want to finish that sentence.
A disturbing video has surfaced from a port in Ivory Coast. A transporter from Burkina Faso recorded a French warship docking at the Abidjan port in the footage. The French warship arrived last night, he could be heard saying. He also mentioned that another ship to his right had been docked in the harbor the night before. It is
Just look at them. Like, what is their sickness? Don't they have enough problems in Europe to worry about? Economic crises, low birth rates, excess deaths, chaos over there in Ukraine, loss of energy, loss of resources, no longer getting uranium from Africa, none of them things. They have enough problems to worry about, and the best thing that they can do is invest more in causing headaches.
worth noting that France has a military facility with roughly 1,000 troops in Abidjan. This video is particularly concerning because France has publicly threatened military action against Niger's military leadership. On September 9, 2023, the new transitional government in Niger made a press release accusing France of planning an attack on Niger with the help of
the
two
same
West
video?
African countries that permitted French warships to enter their seas. These are Benin and the Ivory Coast. On September 12, 2023, Niger terminated military cooperation with Benin and dispatched extra troops to its southern border. France has denied these charges, alleging that they are
Keep an eye on this lady, family. Right? Recognize that face?
completely baseless, but a massive France has denied these charges, alleging that they are completely baseless, but a massive warship cannot be hidden from the public, according to the persons filming the footage. Many videos have also surfaced in Benin that show French warships in their ports. France has agreed to leave Niger, but vigilance is still being observed by Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. The leaders in these countries have to take this seriously because at this point, no one knows what the French are planning. Are they planning to attack Niger, or are they looking for ways to get back into the country? Only time will tell what these troops are doing at the port in Ivory Coast. The rest of Africa is watching as other African countries like Benin and Ivory Coast are harboring foreign powers who want to attack their brothers in Niger. It is shameful to see Africans still side with colonizers to attack their own brothers in the 21st century. This
Puppet
video
regimes.
emerged after Algeria, a former
Generalize.
French colony, has offered to mediate in the crisis in Niger, and Burkina Faso's Ibrahim Traoré has sent troops to help Niger in case anyone tried to attack. We would like to know what your take is on this.
Now, with that in mind, royal family, okay? The question being, what are they planning? Right? What are they planning? And the question is, there's a brother who captured it very well. I'm gonna let him share his piece of mine before we continue.
France talking about like they want war with Africa now because all their people, all their puppets is getting kicked out of power. I've been to Africa. I've been to a few countries in Africa. Those people have pet hyenas. They have pet baboons, pet lions, pet cheetahs. For pets, this is what they have. What you gonna do with your French poodle in Africa? You know what a hyena will do to a French poodle? Your manicured French poodle? Man, chill out with the threats to Africa, man. They'll eat y'all alive out there. Easy. Easy. France talking about like they want war with Africa.
And the brother's not wrong, family. And I didn't want to say it before, but I will say it out loud right now. If they want war, they will have it in abundance. We got the metals, we can make the bullets, we can keep going forever if they want it. This new African generation is not playing games, royal family. We're not out here to play. We're being as gentle as possible, asking them to leave, asking them to get lost, asking them to respect our boundaries. And they are so entitled to the fact that how dare we? How dare we tell them to do anything because they are the colonizers here?
France has began waking from its slumber and has quickly realized that it is no longer a colonial power that continues to hold dominance over its so-called African colonies. This has been evident by numerous coups in the former French colonies and the increased rejection of French foreign policies in those states and overseas territories. With the expulsion of French ambassador to Niger and their troops in months to come, the matter seemed rather serious to France that it was brought before the French Parliament to discuss what the way forward would be.
Now, I said before, keep an eye out for that lady. Yes?
Avec les putsch au Niger, au Gabon cet été, votre politique néocoloniale et impérialiste.
With the coups in Niger and Gabon this summer, your neo-colonial and imperialist policy in Africa has experienced one of the greatest setbacks. It's the fault of our policies driven by economic interests, from uranium to oil. Even this same colonial fact which is being denounced. In our
So they know full damn well what they've been doing with the uranium. Paying cents. A few cents. For something that is valued at a few €100 on the international market. Stealing our resources for dirt cheap prices and then selling them for overpriced. That's been the classic joke. To which we've been the punchline all these years. They know that they've been extracting our resources for dirt cheap, overpricing everything. We have to pay top dollar for the iPhone even though it's made out of our resources from the Congo Basin, from the Ghanaian Basin, all of them. And as I've been saying, and everybody else has been saying, that the new generation is done with these games. In our previous video, we covered that this is our finest hour. And we rise, royal family.
overseas territories they experience the persistence of this mentality. Those territories are exploited solely for their natural resources, without regard of the suffering of the populations nor at the risk of a social explosion that you will now know has come to the Sahel. You asked the soldiers to do humanitarian work for humanitarians. You asked them to do politics for diplomats. You asked them to only be the sounding board of the Élysée and therefore of French multinationals. And when you claimed to defend democracy, the people responded by denouncing and rejecting the cheats. The African people have no anti-French feeling, but are anti-French policies. They want to achieve their second independence, that of economic and financial sovereignty. We should close the military bases in Africa and put an end to the French CFA franc. But instead you continue to demand international sanctions, which suffocate the people and reinforce the image of a French policy that is blind to the needs of the people. You have even demanded the end of cultural cooperation with all Malian, Burkinabe and Nigerian artists, blocking the obtaining of visas for students from these states, by applying these unjust collective sanctions. You are attacking the powerful vectors of peace that are cultural and intellectual cooperation. Ms. Kalana and Mr. Vigier, when will neo-colonial arrogance leave our public policies?
Now they're using specific words even in their own House of Parliament. Neo-colonial policies against Africa. Shut down military bases. Extracting our resources because we're nothing but territories to them. And when the people cry out, please France, stop. What do the French do?
Quand l'arrogance néocoloniale va-t-elle quitter nos politiques publiques?
Merci Madame la Présidente. Monsieur le député Lecoq.
Mr. Deputy Lecoq, I would want to agree with you. I hope that no one is offended.
Now listen very carefully to what this demoness has to say.
But I cannot be so, as your words go beyond reality. In Gabon as in Niger, our policies are guided by the two principles, which always govern us. 1. We condemn all coups d'état. 2. We support regional organizations, ECOWAS. In Niger, in Gabon and the countries of Central Africa. This is the reality, and I would also like to remind you that Africa is not reduced to the Sahel and a few rims which call into question France to hide their own failures.
Now, You see the collective consequences of divide and conquer? Divide, 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 reduced down to individual nations. Therefore, when one nation says, hey, you're being a problem, they say, no, it's just the one person saying that. It's just the one nation saying that. It's not all of Africa saying that. Yes, all of Africa is saying this. From across to West Africa, to East Africa, to South, to the North. If Algeria is saying that they will rather side with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, if anyone tries anything, let that be a declaration of war. The rest of us on the continent, all we can do is put pressure on their business interests and their diplomatic interests, their embassies. The fact that you had EFF here in South Africa protesting, going over to the French embassy saying, handing over a memorandum. And as they said in their French accent, we are not going to listen to it because it is your memorandum.
Do not do that, Mr. Deputy, I beg you.
Then they accuse us of being in denial of reality. They are the ones who are being delusional. Adamant that it can't be all of Africa. It can't be. It can't be Africans saying these things. It has to be the Russians. It has to be the Chinese influence.
On the contrary, relations between France and most of the 54 African countries are doing well. It is even doing very well than in 15 years. The
Delusions.
volume of our investments has doubled. And in fact our universities are attractive and they welcome today 92,000 African students, or 40% more than in 2017. It is a fact, we have increased our development traits by 50% in 6 years.
Look at the look on their face. They cannot believe she's this stupid, this silly, this dumb, this ignorant. They're like, how long are you going to keep denying reality? Look at that. Look, that's the one on the left is like, how long is this woman going to keep denying reality? The one on the right is the one who's been just made the speech, saying they're going to keep denying until an all-out conflict breaks out. They are reminded that we outnumber them. The youngest population versus an aging population. Population whose military is struggling to recruit because they don't have young people to enter the force because of their crashing demographics. So when I keep covering the fact that they are an aging population, they are not having enough children, they are facing economic stagnation, it is strategy. Should they want to start something, understand we will defeat them easy. Never mind them being a nuclear power. Doesn't mean anything.
It is a fact everywhere on the continent we carry out cooperation with scientists, young people, sportsmen, artists. Mr. Deputies, and regarding artists, allow me to say that the measures you mentioned have never been taken or even requested. And above all, we treat Africa on an equal footing.
No, you don't.
Deal with it, the major challenges of tomorrow, the major issues that are the end of development, the climate, global health. We give support in global governance as in the weight of Africa and African countries. We did it at the G20. We did it at the Security Council. The African Union has just entered the G20 with our support.
Distractions. Give the illusion of inclusion, the illusion of friendship. Meanwhile, they exploit. Like I said before in the previous video, a parasite will poison the host with toxins in order to give the host a dreamlike state. Make the organs think that the parasite is supposed to be there when really it's a foreign body. And it has to be removed because it's siphoning our mineral resources in our body, draining us of life, as parasites do. Do not fall for these tricks, family.
This is the reality, Mr. Deputies, and this is what we are doing with our African partners. I thank you.
And then the man comes back with the comeback.
Madam Minister, you heard what the African people are saying. You heard them. Obviously it's not all of Africa. The 2 minutes granted to me do not allow me to give you the full list. But you know very well, even from that ECOWAS as part of the example, that clearly, the former French colonies have a message to give to France, and it is this message you have difficulty hearing.
We are giving them a message and they refuse to listen. They refuse to listen. And indeed, I'm wondering if nothing less than an all-out conflict is the only way to make them stop. I mourn for the modern day French generation. I do. I mourn for them greatly. Because their leaders are leading them into damnation. They have made choices that have cursed them. They held on to their colonial mentalities for so long that should we attempt to emancipate ourselves would be a devastating effect on their economies because they knew no other way of survival. They relied on our mineral resources for too damn long because we're nothing but colonies to them. And without any of our mineral resources, they cannot sustain any of their industries. Should we dare do anything for ourselves, not even because we're doing anything on purpose, but because we just have to develop ourselves, period. Right? The pursuit of happiness, right? The right to life, the right to live, the right to prosperity on your motherland, on your fatherland. These are the consequences they are creating for themselves. A dark age for real. And the only thing that we can do is do what we can do for ourselves, kinfolk. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.